All right, we're live. Happy Friday. I got to drink. I always have to have a drink first. It's like the coffee club juice. Yeah, we all got it going on. So we're just going to give people a minute to grab their coffees and then join us and have
Or
a fun Friday morning. So what are you drinking?
lemon, ginger, turmeric, hot water.
Okay, everybody says that that's really good, but
Is
it's how much of each though? I'm always worried I'm going to make it too turmeric-y.
so I actually use fresh, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And I use like about 5 slices of ginger. They're pretty thin, and then about 4 or 5 of turmeric, and they're pretty thin. But whenever you use turmeric, you got to add black pepper too. Otherwise, your
Oh,
body doesn't absorb the turmeric. So you need to have a little bit of black pepper in there. And I use a half of a lemon, and I freshly press it and then fill it with hot water.
that's amazing. You
Most
always have great concoctions.
and if you don't like it too tart, it's not turmeric-y that way. But if you
Yeah.
don't like it that tart, just add a little bit of honey.
Oh, see, that
Mhm,
works. You got
mhm.
all the answers. You really do.
Yeah, and especially with like cold season, this is um this is what you want to be drinking.
Well, it's really good for immunity, is it not?
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Which I feel like in our current state of affairs of the world, anything that we can do that gives us the opportunity to work on our immune system is definitely a go.
And also at the beginning, like if you actually, when you wake up, if the first thing you do is have some sort of like a warm drink, like a hot drink, but if you do not coffee, like if you do like a hot water or a hot lemon drink, what happens is it kickstarts your metabolism and it starts to detox all that was left in the evening. So then it
Oh,
starts it almost like cleanses you right off the bat, and then you're ready for the day. So it's a good thing to do first thing in the morning is to have that drink and then not really eat for a good 15 minutes.
yeah. All right. I love this.
Yeah.
I'm going to like start your mornings caraway. Well, I'm going to take a moment to introduce our Fun Friday guest today. Thank you for joining us for Virtual Coffee Club. It's always amazing to have you come in and connect with us. And today, I'm really excited because believe it or not, Cara, you have been on my list for probably about a month now to contact and be a Fun Friday guest. And I think November is the perfect month to have you help us kick it off. So everybody, please welcome my soul friend, Cara Marshall. Thank you for being a part of Fun Friday.
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for having me.
Now, November with our kindness revolution is taking a bit of a, I don't know, a little bit of a direction or a theme into making sure we're really kind to ourselves because we can exude lots of kindness to other people. But if we're not remembering to be kind to ourselves first, in my opinion, and you can, you know, agree or disagree, is that I think we lose a lot of the importance of kindness because we have to start inside first. And so you're really exceptional in my mind of being somebody who is really good at reminding people to be kind to themselves every single day. And that's why I wanted to connect with you for this month because you're so good at this.
So well, I find that kindness is just our first instinct, even as humans, like our first instinct is always usually external. So it's no wonder that we tend to do acts of kindness externally because we're programmed that way, and we haven't really had that time to really go in and extend that same kindness inside of us. And it's just a different way of thinking. It's a different, I don't want to go in just yet because I don't want to dive in. I don't know if you want me to say who I am or anything like
Yeah. Well, I think I was going to try to describe to me who you are, but I don't know if I would do it justice as well as you would for yourself. And so I think that what's great about you is there's amazing background to why you're so great at having this. So feel free to explain to our friends that background and who you are and why you're so great.
um, well, we're all great. So that's the
Yeah.
number one thing is to learn about, that's what we're all here learning is how great we all are. Every single one of us, we all have we all are greatness, and the fact that we're human is number one. We're great. But from my background, you know, I grew up in a typical family where I went to school, I went to high school. You know, it was like get good grades, go to university. I actually had no choice. It was like, you're going to university no matter what. Like, there was just this assembly line was already there for me. And I was like, oh, I can do that. I can follow rules. And so I did that, and then went into engineering, and I worked as an engineer for, oh gosh, I would say, I think it was 19 years. And I ran an engineering firm, and you know, I kind of checked all the boxes off the assembly line. And by the time I was 35, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, now what? Like, I have 55 plus years to go, and I've checked all the boxes off. You know, it was like, get good grades, get a house, have children, get married, get a good job, start putting money away, all of that aspect. And I was just like, okay, now what? And so I got bored, and I told my sister at the time that I was kind of bored, and went into, she said to me, she goes, well, why don't you do a Olympic triathlon? So in my mind, I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to add more ingredients to the assembly line, you know? And that's what we do. We tend to just do. That's kind of like our go-to, is to do. And I said to her, I said, oh my God, I hadn't worked out for like, I had 2 kids. I hadn't done anything. And I was like, oh, I could do a little mini one. And she's like, no, I want you to do something that your mind says you can't do. And so I did. I ended up doing this Olympic triathlon. And I'll tell you, anybody who wants to challenge yourself to something, when you do that, it doesn't even matter if you complete the event. The fact that you put your mind to something and then start it and you commit to it, there's such a fulfilling energy in that. And that is about putting you first, right? Like, that is about being kind to yourself. But when I did that, at the time, my sister was very ill. It was her third case, I guess, or what do you call that? Instance or experience with cancer. And so a couple months after I finished my assembly line, my sister passed away. And at that time, everything just kind of changed for me. You know, it was like a crisis. And I just took my engineering mind and said, I just dove into anything and everything to do with the meaning of life. And why are we here? You know, like, there's got to be more to life than just going to work, having kids, like that aspect. And so that's kind of like my background. And so I immersed myself into, you know, I'm Reiki, shamanism, essential oils, crystals, all these different types of modalities that complemented the Western world. And I did nutrition. I did a lot of different aspects. And then in that discovery of myself, because I was learning so much, then I kind of went to this aspect that, you know, I just can't do engineering anymore. Like, it's not my passion anymore. My passion was living, like, the true, like, this wholeness. And I'm not saying work is a bad thing. I loved my engineering. Like, I loved it. There was like if you ask anybody who knows me in engineering, I loved it. But it was just this new aspect for me, right? To kind of go into more our personal being and our well-being and why we're really here and the gift of what it is to be here. And so that's kind of my background. And so now I left my career and didn't have any work, and but I knew I was going into this field. So ended up starting, and I'm Cara, your soul friend, where I work with clients, and I'm an intuitive wellness practitioner. And so what I like to do is kind of go into the energy of my clients, and we just talk, you know, like, we just kind of really get to the truth, and we really strip away all of the programming, all of the aspects of what we've been told. And it's not that it's right or wrong. It's just, is it in alignment with who you are? You know, like everybody is doing the best they can with the knowledge they have available to them. Every single human being is doing that, you know, but when we have awareness, we have that ability now to receive new information and to take action and to get more freedom within, right?
Yeah.
So I guess that's like my history is how I kind of came into doing what I do. And I think I just see in this expansion and in this, I guess, that investigation of what is life, I just see this greatness of what it is to be human and what it is to be here and living this life and not taking it for granted. And yeah, maybe partially because my sister did pass, I did get to really, you know, reflect on that and see what that means. And then most of us, if not all of us, have had some sort of trauma in that way, you know, that just reminds us of how special our lives are. And it is important to put you first. Like, I signed up to live this life, so why am I living it for everybody else? You know, and it's beautiful to extend kindness, but it comes from inside, right? Like, there's an inside aspect of the kindness, and we can see it externally, but we can't see it internally because we've been programmed so much, you know, and in no fault to society, it was just the times around, you know, be humble. And there's beautiful aspects to being humble, but we took it to the extreme where we put everybody
like
else.
we usually do.
Yeah. And so we put everybody else ahead of us. And when we put ourselves first, you're gifting everybody else. You're showing, you're leading, you're gifting everybody else the same opportunity because you're showing it. You're showing that, hey, she can put herself first. Why can't I?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and think of the impact we could have in this world if we all were doing that collectively, putting ourselves first, shining the best version of ourselves first. The ripple effect of that would be like we'd be an unstoppable force.
Oh my gosh. And nobody would be taking things personally. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
which would be so great.
Because that we do too. Like,
yeah.
it's like, you know, anything that we see externally, we take it personally, and we don't see that we're the creator of our external world.
Yeah.
And we've been taught the other way.
Well, and I think probably I would guess, I don't want to speak on behalf of other people. And by all means, if anybody has a question or a comment or something, please put it into the comments and I'll share them with Cara while we chit chat this morning. But I would think that because we're so programmed to do it the other way is the first reaction for most people. I know it was for myself when I started to really do an internal journey about a year ago. And you know, because we've been working quite a bit on this, is that it's like, it feels selfish and it feels weird and it's foreign. But you just like, do you start by being like, okay, this is what I'm telling myself. It's not the truth. The truth is that I matter.
Yeah. And I find that statement of I matter can be, it's absolutely beautiful and it's so true, but it can be really overwhelming for people, right? Like, it's like we get, and all of us at all times, we get that we matter.
But we don't.
But it hasn't landed. It's like we haven't practiced it. And so this is where it's just changing subtleties. It's changing the perspective. And it's like, you know, so often when we're engaged in conversation with people, our conversation is, a lot of the times it's you know, it's like, how often do you hear of married couples? And you'll be talking to your friend and they're saying, you know, he does this and he does that and he, you know, and it's like, he needs to change this. It's all external. Like, it's all, they're seeing it from the external world. And it's beautiful because that's the first way to see how you're viewing life. because you see it externally. So then what happens when you're in that moment, because you're right, like when you're in the moment, the first automatic response is it's them.
Yeah.
Right? It's happening to me.
Yeah.
That's the automatic response. And so then we kind of move into, oh, wait a minute. And all we really need to do is kind of go, oh yeah, I feel that. And usually you'll feel like a tightness, or you'll feel like defensive, or you'll feel, like you feel like you just don't feel at your best when that happens. When there's an external and you're taking it personally, it usually makes you feel uncomfortable, right? And so when you notice that feeling, that's when we can say, oh, wait a minute, life is happening for me.
Yeah.
Right?
For me. Yeah.
For me.
Big mind shift. Yeah.
Huge, right? And it's just even that, like, just even you're like, oh, it's happening for me. So it's like learning not to gather that evidence, like, because once you know it's happening for me, the story has already got your attention. The experience that you're in has already got your attention. And that's all it was meant to do, was to get your attention. Yeah. And so we can then choose to either feed that story or reflect back and go, what is that for me? And then that's putting you first, right? And this, like, kindness comes in a different way. It's like if we can't see who we are first and that I matter, then how can we be kind to ourselves?
Exactly.
Right? Because everything is external then, and then we just kind of want to continue to do good for others. And it does fill our cup. Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful aspect, to be kind, and it's amazing. It does fill our cups. But we also, what happens is, if you were a person who was constantly kind to everyone else, like doing acts of kindness, which is beautiful, but that's all you did, and you did it at your own expense, you will feel depleted. Yeah. Over time, that will deplete you, right? And what happens over time is usually a resentment comes in, because then the statement is, what about me? Right? And then we don't want to, then we feel bad, what about me? And it's like, oh, my life is fine. Like, we justify it, right? It's like, I have a great life. Why am I complaining? Like, it's like,
all these things are this, why this, and what does that look like? Yeah. And I really felt that in the fact that we're 8 months into a huge change in our world and a huge change in our life. And that's exhausting unto itself. And we as a club spent October sort of giving out kindness to others. And I thought, you know what, we're all going to be pretty empty. And how do we finish out 2020 in a really strong place, instead of a place where, because you feel it, right? Everywhere you go, there's weird bouts of fear, and there's weird bouts of anger, and all of those emotions just really, they start to suck the energy. And so we want to focus November on just how do we bring ourselves back up, and how do we fill those cups. So a question to you, Cara, is how do we start? If we're people who, because I think we'll have a wide variety that will connect with us this month. How do you start if you're not somebody who's really focused on yourself before?
Yeah. Well, how I look at it is, first off, is trying to, I'm kind of, my guides are talking right now, so I'm like, okay.
Welcome to Coffee Club, guides. We're so happy you're here. Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Because they're just first, I'm just kind of hearing, I first got to say, especially in November. So this is really great that we're talking right now at the beginning of November, because there is, like, we have been in trying times, right? Like, we have been in a lot of external chaos and change, and there's a lot of things going on in this world right now, right? Yeah. And November feels like it's going to get intense, more intense. So what they're saying, so it's beautiful that you're kind of saying to go into you first. Okay. So what I'm hearing is really ask yourself, and this is something I usually say to my clients a lot. And I know everyone usually laughs, but it works. I always say when you're choosing to do something, like say for instance, somebody asked you to go for coffee, and it's a friend, right? If it's someone you don't see very often and you don't want to go for coffee, sometimes it's easier to just go, no, right? But if it's somebody that's a really close friend, we start to feel these obligation vibrations. And it's like, even though we really we enjoy spending time with our friends, and we would it's like, let's say that would be, if you had a list of 1 to 10 of all the things that you really loved, it would be really high up there to go for coffee with your friend, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing though is that on that particular time frame, you're feeling maybe really overwhelmed. Maybe you have a lot going on in your life, and you literally don't feel you have the time for coffee. But inside of you, you're kind of going, you kind of feel like, but she's my friend. Like you start to justify it. Like you start to, these thoughts come through, and it's like, well, maybe it'll be good for me. Maybe that's what I really need. But do you hear the statement? I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is, when you're kind of feeling, when it's not an automatic yes, because when you get those, it's kind of like you even say yes before you even thought about it. It's like, yeah, let's go, right? Those are not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is when you kind of something comes in and you're not answering right away, right? So then kind of what I say is, hold a magic wand. Pretend you had a magic wand, and pretend that you could zap your friend so that she responds exactly how you would want her to respond when you make your decision. So if you made a decision saying, I don't want to go, you might feel in that decision, you're going to feel guilt, or you're going to feel, I should do this, or, you feel these kind of lower vibrations. And so carry the wand and ask, and then go, okay, what would I do if I had a magic wand? What would my answer be?
Yeah.
And then your truth. And then once you have that truth, if you make the answer, say your truth was no, and you still went, generally speaking, when you go, it's not going to be great, and it's going to deplete you. And right. So it's this is a way of starting to just ask yourself what you truly want. What is important to you? And that doesn't mean you don't love your friend, right? Not at all. It just means I need to listen to what's going on inside of me. And so if you're not used to saying no, because a lot of us have a difficulty saying no, right? If you're not used to it, then just say, I would love to go for coffee. I just really know I need to have this time for me. Maybe we'll go for coffee sometime soon.
Yeah.
Right? It's just really listening to what your body needs. What are your values? And then not trying to justify them. Right? Yeah. It's just kind of owning them. So start simple. That's why I was using the coffee example, right? It's start simple with those little aspects. And the reason I'm also using the coffee example is because this month, it's really going to show up in relationships. So we're really going to start to see where we're not honoring ourselves. And when we don't honor ourselves, we get depleted. And that's the difference. We think being kind to ourselves is oh, I'm going to do everything that I love, right? And it's not. Like, yeah, I can be that, but really it's more about, is this what really brings me joy? And I don't like to use the idea, but it does help. It's like, if I was going to die in a month, is this what I would be choosing? What is valuable to you? So it's like, start with seeing what your values, what is important to you. That's the starting point, right?
Yeah.
And when you can start with that, then you can kind of start to see, and you can start asking. And maybe you tell your friends, if they're really close friends. I mean, anybody who's in your life, if they're not, and I know this sounds like kind of negative, but if they're not supporting you, then maybe you need to look at who's in your life.
Yeah.
Right? Like that might be coming up, right? Like, it's like, people that, if you're expanding and you're putting yourself first, and you have people in your life that aren't receiving that, there might be some changes coming in your life around your friendships.
Yeah.
Because it is important, and it's not being selfish. Like, we've been taught that that's being selfish.
Yeah.
Right? Putting yourself first. And it's like, really? Really? So you signed up for life to serve everybody else? You didn't come
To
here
work yourself to death? Like,
pretty much.
that's it. That's it. That's all there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a servant to everybody.
Yeah.
And it's going to be at my own expense. And it's like, no, life is way too valuable. And there's way too much fun in life to be
So much fun.
right.
And we're not having enough fun. Like, there needs to be more fun.
Yeah. And if we're not listening to what brings us joy, then how are we living our best life? How are we having that fun, right? And it doesn't happen overnight, but it's like, start small. It's reprogramming. We're reprogramming ourselves as to what is selfish, because selfish has the word, like, it has a connotation of negative.
Yeah.
And really, I always say, like, can you imagine if the whole world was selfish in its true definition? Like we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Nobody would be hurt. Nobody would take things personally. Like, it would just be like everybody living their best life.
Yeah. There's our dream right there. Everybody living our best life. Yeah.
Totally. And it is about, choosing some fun here and there, and realizing, one thing that comes up is our children. For anyone that has children, what shows up is moms, like, we tend to put our children first.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's like, at all expenses. It's like, we think that they deserve everything. And it's like, I might get a little metaphysical here, but when we sign up to come here, they like, and this isn't everybody's belief, but it's like, our children choose us. And if they're choosing us, they already know what we signed up for. They already know, what we want to experience in this world, how we want to experience. So the best thing we can do is to honor that, like, to honor what we said, what's important to us, our values, right? Like, so if we listen to what's important to ourselves, then we're doing the best thing we can for our children.
Absolutely.
But if we don't honor what's important to us, then they're kind of further away from what they wanted to experience in this world.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know that's a bit
Love it.
metaphysical, but
hey, it's Friday morning. We can go anywhere we want. The world is our playground. So I love it. And I can honestly listen to you talk about things all morning long, but we're just having a quick coffee break. So I'm going to have to stop you there. But I encourage people to come and find you on your social media. I especially love following. I think you do the messaging kind of the same everywhere, but I love your Instagram the most because you just get this daily nugget of a thought, something to reflect on, and it's one of my favorite ways to start the day. So will you
Yeah.
give out your social media info for people?
Yeah. So my Instagram is Cara Marshall. And my Facebook page is Cara, your soul friend. And my website is caramarshall.ca. And
Perfect.
yeah. But the daily messages are great because that's what I do. I check in with the guides and I ask them what can help us today. You know, what's going to help us today? And it is about that putting yourself first. Definitely.
Absolutely. And if people want to find out more info or talk to you more, or see more of what you do and what you can offer, all of that, whether you look on her Facebook, Instagram, the website, they can contact you through there. And I hope people will who live in our area. I mean, we've got people from all over, but that's the cool thing about technology is you can also connect with people with technology all around the world. So no matter where you're coffee clubbing from today, check out Cara's stuff. And Cara, thank you for spending this fun Friday morning with us.
Yeah. Well, everybody be kind to yourself, right?
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great Friday.
Thank you.